Daniel Andrews unleashes attack on Victoria. I don't think anybody is surprised. We've seen these new so-called measures implemented today, but we've seen them all before. The curfew is back and so much more. This man will do anything. He will do anything to maintain his stranglehold on Victoria. I've got a little clip. I'm going to play it for you.
There's simply no option today but to further strengthen this lockdown and to, on the advice of the Chief Health Officer, extend it for a further 2 weeks. That is these arrangements, and I'll go through the tougher conditions, the more onerous requirements as part of a strengthened lockdown will be in place until the 2nd of September.
All right, so what are these new abuses on our rights? What are they? We have the travel restriction of 5 kilometres. Okay, so an abuse limiting our freedom of movement. Schools closed, playgrounds closed, because supposedly little kids playing outside are posing some sort of health threat. They're posing some type of risk to the greater community. Little kids playing on playgrounds. Can you believe it? This man is absolutely sick. No weddings. No, you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want people coming together. But the construction's allowed at least up to 25% of the workforce. You wouldn't want to shut that down completely, would you, Daniel Andrews? No. Probably have too many buddies in that industry to shut it down. What do you reckon? What do you reckon, ladies and gentlemen? Was the decision to allow 25% workforce in construction, was it scientific and based on the latest expert advice? Or did it have something to do with some of Daniel Andrews' contacts? I don't have the answer to that question. I'm asking you the question. I'm going to leave that to you to speculate at home. All right, we've got the work papers back, all right? So so-called authorised workers need to travel carrying papers, that's right. So Victoria Police can pull you over and say, can I see your papers? Are you authorised to be out of your home? What's your name? Where do you live? Where are you going? And what do you do for a living? Are we living in Victoria or are we living in Nazi-occupied France? That's a question as well for you at home. Here's another interesting one as well. Letterboxing is banned. Letterboxing. So what, you can't go for a walk within your 5Ks and put information in letterboxes? Is this about controlling a so-called virus, or is this about suppressing information? You know, through Reignite Democracy Australia, there has been many huge, far-reaching letterbox campaigns. All right, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying that he's trying to stop that. But what common sense does it possibly make to stop letterboxing? What does letterboxing achieve? Well, it achieves the spreading of information. What is good about letterboxing? What I like about letterboxing is that it's censorship-free. You can't censor a letterbox unless you get the secret police following people around, taking individual flyers out of each individual letterbox, which is probably quite unlikely. Plus other rubbish. That's right. There's other rubbish restrictions as well that can only be described as human rights abuses. That can only be described as an absolute assault on our basic human dignity. Daniel Andrews, in my view, is committing a tremendous assault against the people that pay his bills. And I don't think it's going to work out well in the end. Maybe he thinks it's popular. Maybe he thinks the vast majority of us are convinced that he's doing it because he loves us. For our own safety, right? To keep us all safe. To stop grandma from going to the hospital. This man is on an absolute power trip. And I got to say it, he's going to come undone. Yep, he's not going to get away with it forever, ladies and gentlemen. I'd bet my last penny on it. All right, so here we go. We've got some new advice, right? Supposed advice from the Chief Health Officer regarding curfews. Look at this.
There will be a curfew on advice from the Chief Health Officer from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. each and every day. That comes into effect from tonight. I'm asking people to curfew from 9 p.m. The rules don't kick in until midnight, but I'm asking people to observe that curfew from 9 p.m. tonight.
So, advice from Sutton, the Chief Health Officer. This is pretty interesting, don't you think, ladies and gentlemen, that Sutton would be giving this type of advice? And why am I saying this is interesting? Because he's completely backflipped. Who here remembers the debacle from here in Victoria last year regarding who ordered the curfew? Nobody seemed to know. It wasn't the police, right? Chief Commissioner Patton, he said, no, we didn't request it. Sutton said that he didn't recommend it. Daniel Andrews said that supposedly the advice came from the experts, but he can't exactly remember who. And so the Victorian public was left completely in the dark regarding this concept of the curfew. And now, of course, the curfew's back. They want to lock us in our homes from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. Are you kidding me? The curfew is back? I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think? Put your thoughts in the comments. So regarding this Brett Sutton guy, he's all of a sudden he's all on board with curfew. So have a look at this, right? Let me show you something. He said, this was last year, Brett Sutton says he did not recommend the measure. He didn't recommend it, but now he does. So Brett Sutton has had a light bulb moment. That's right. He finally came to his senses about the curfew, and now he's all on board with it. He's like, yeah, that's a good idea. I just don't want to get in trouble with my boss. All right, so let's have a look at what he had to say here.
The evidence around curfews is not dissimilar to the evidence around a whole bunch of other interventions.
Okay, so the evidence about curfews is not that much different from the evidence about other interventions. All right. First profound statement by Sutton there.
They are hard to tease apart from the suite of interventions that happen. But
hard to tease apart. All right, gotcha.
Between stopping small gatherings, stopping large gatherings, density quotient, social distancing.
Are we talking about gatherings, social distancing, or are we talking about curfews? Why can't the man just answer a very simple question? And why does he need to conflate this issue with many other of these bogus bullshit restrictions?
And the like. It is one of a suite of interventions that was very successful last year in Victoria.
Can he prove beyond reasonable doubt how successful it was, or are we just meant to take his word for it? Or are we not meant to ask the question because we're meant to trust the experts, right?
Published studies on curfews, and people are free to look at them. A lot of these...
Do you want to tell us exactly what these studies are, Professor Sutton, so that we, the people, can review them and make sure these studies are free from confirmation bias? Or would you prefer to just keep that little tidbit of information to yourself, Professor?
Things will remain in a space where it can't be definitive because they've been applied with a whole bunch of other interventions.
All right, so the merit of curfews, the merit is not definitive because they've been applied with a whole bunch of other measures, yet in the breath before he told us that there's evidence that supposedly they're effective based on the last time the curfew was used. Is it just me, or is this man just an absolute mess, an absolute contradiction? What the heck is going on here?
But the curfew was part of a suite of very successful interventions. As I said, last year's second wave, to drive down from around 700 cases to zero in support of an aggressive suppression strategy was one of the...
So on one hand, he's saying it was effective. It got us from 700 cases to zero. But then he's claiming that the results are not definitive, and there's a whole host of other measures that were used. So it's kind of hard to work out what's working and what's not. I mean, do people actually listen to this guy speak and they say, yeah, this guy knows exactly what he's doing? Maybe some do. I don't know. Do you know anyone like that? All right, so let's have a look. Let's keep going here. So door to door, that's right. Who here saw this? We're prepared to do what has to be done. And that's what Daniel Andrews said in relation to the prospect of sending testing teams door to door. Let's have a bit of a look at that.
We're not at a point where we need to be going door to door. We're not at a point where we need entire suburbs to come out and get tested. If we get to that stage, then we won't hesitate. I think we've shown, well, in fact, I know we've shown that we're prepared to do what has to be done, popular or otherwise.
What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? What do you think? I mean, if we get to that stage, notice the language that Daniel Andrews uses. He leaves the door open. We're not at that stage. But if we get to that stage, he's not ruling it out. He likes the idea. He loves the power. This man is absolutely deranged. In his own mind, he sees himself as some type of all-powerful leader, perhaps inspired by his former masters at the Chinese Communist Party, who probably aren't that happy with him anymore. If we get to that stage, testing door to door? I tell you what, nobody will be testing me door to door. Who here agrees with that? Are you going to be opening your door and allowing some stranger to stick a swab down your throat? Would you really be willing to let that happen? I don't think so. And it raises another question. If he is willing to do this, quote, if we get to that stage, what other so-called measures is Daniel Andrews willing to roll out? He's assaulted our most basic human freedoms, our most basic human rights, freedom to movement, assembly, to work, to earn a living. I mean, at one stage, he even attempted to have ADF drones deployed to the suburbs so he could spy on people. I believe it was on Australia Day, people having illegal barbecues. This man is absolutely deranged, and I wouldn't put it past him to send out vaccination teams door to door. Is that really outside of the realm of possibility, the way this man is speaking? Put your thoughts in the comments, but I tell you what, Daniel Andrews may think that he's going to steamroll the people of Victoria, but he is absolutely wrong. And I think David Limbrick summed it up very well the other day on Twitter when he said this. He said, "I'm calling it. The government is now more dangerous than COVID. And no, that's not just the Victorian government, I mean the feds also." What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you agree with David Limbrick? Is the government more dangerous than COVID? Well, you know my thoughts plain and clear, right? In my view, the government is not the solution. The government is the problem. It should be up to you and I, right? Free people to determine our own risks and to live our own lives. If somebody is scared of corona, they should be more than welcome to wear whatever they want. They can wear 10 face masks, they can wear a hazmat suit, or for all I care, they can walk down the street wearing an astronaut costume or a clown costume or whatever makes them feel good. I don't care, and I'm not here to judge. What we're asking for is really simple, and that is for the government to get the hell out of our lives and for we, the people, to make our own decisions and to work and to earn a living and to provide for our families. The government is running around as if they are the saviors of humanity, whereas they serve us. They're nothing without us in the private sector. So I think there's going to be a huge backlash, especially to these new restrictions. I predict there's going to be mass protests. I'm predicting that, and I think that Daniel Andrews is underestimating the extent to which Victorians are utterly sick and tired of being governed by an absolute maniac, and that's what I have to say about that. What are your thoughts? Put your thoughts in the comments.